Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen. This is the Bearable Bull here. And I got this aggressively average content for you today. Ladies and gentlemen, we have a massive crisis on our hands. XRP, in my opinion, is about to explode on the heels of the banks collapsing. Credit Suisse, another behemoth, has gone down. And you know what's funny? You can't even buy XRP anywhere on US exchanges other than Uphold. This is a crisis that's always been planned for, and that I believe XRP will be the solution for. And it's almost as if it was planned to not be able to allow retail in the United States to buy some XRP. Lawsuit decision is coming very soon. ISO live in just 4 days. And do you guys blame me for being extremely excited? All of these major events are merging together to create the perfect storm for the inevitable XRP adoption that we all expect. But it seems to me like we're on the verge of witnessing inflation while also witnessing the rise of interest rates. And this is going to make for a very interesting playing field. You see, ladies and gentlemen, remember that banks like Credit Suisse are eligible for the Fed's new bank liquidity program. This is yet another style of bailout that is going to cause inflation and money printing to go through the roof. Here we see that Credit Suisse is going to borrow up to $54 billion. And don't be surprised if more banks start collapsing and more bailouts continue as well, as we see that the Federal Reserve's emergency loan program may inject as much as $2 trillion worth of funds into the US banking system to ease the liquidity crunch. Oh, liquidity is going to be the magic word we're going to be seeing in the next couple months. There's going to be a liquidity crisis, and XRP's on-demand liquidity just happens to be a liquidity solution. Not only that, but from Crypto Insights, we see that Fidelity Crypto went live, allowing for millions of retail customers to access Bitcoin. All while the banks are collapsing, all while they're trying to blame crypto. They're doing one thing while saying another. This is the institutional game. This is why the massive fear porn that you're witnessing on your news feeds every single day is just that. It's here to dissuade you from understanding that right now it's a massive buying opportunity. Yes, there is volatility. Yes, tomorrow we could see the price go down, maybe 5, 10%, who knows, maybe another 20%. But ultimately, it's moments like these that separates the new 1% from the average Joe. The average Joe would be dissuaded from entering the market at this time. While the big boys, this is when they make their mark. And ladies and gentlemen, I've been hearing plenty of conversations on Twitter. Oh, ISO. Oh, it's not going to be a big deal. Oh, who cares about Swift? XRP will never be used. Ladies and gentlemen, I have a brief clip from Swift discussing how Ripple is the only thing that they can't talk about. It's almost as if Ripple and XRP's role in Swift's future is going to be so massive that they can't let the common man know. That's what I've always believed, and that's what I'm betting on.
Still working with Ripple at all as a company? I know that there was some extracurricular activity that was working its way through the courts, but and it's since been resolved. But I'm curious if there's ongoing discussions, since one of their primary focus is on the interbank settlement component that you're also touching.
So frankly, Ripple's probably the only topic I can't talk about. I just don't talk about it. I can't talk about it. I can't talk about it.
Oh, guys, what an interesting quote. Ripple and XRP are that company and that digital asset that shall not be named. Here, John Deaton is in an interview with J.W. Verrett talking about why Gary doesn't want to go to the Supreme Court. and the likely chances of him losing in the Supreme Court. He needs a trophy, and that's why I think a settlement is likely post-judgment. That seems to be what's on the table as well. And I want you all to hear why Verret believes that we all as an industry need to thank Brad Garlinghouse, because the pain that the SEC is looking to inflict isn't going to stop anytime soon.
Do you have an opinion as to why the SEC picked the fight with Ripple? I mean, Ripple's well funded. Brad Garlinghouse has said publicly that when all said and done, it'd be $100 million in legal fees. That's pretty steep.
Well, I don't think they saw that coming, and I think they probably expected there would be a settlement, and I think they underestimated the fight inside of Brad. There's a lot of sand. I've learned there's a lot of sand inside that fella, and I admire that. And he's doing a service for everyone in crypto.
Let me ask you.
We all ought to shake his hand.
Let me ask you, JW, do you think that the courts will be able to rein in the SEC before they do too much damage?
They're gonna continue to do some damage. We'll see if maybe we have more luck quickly on overturning rule proposals. If they move forward with the Reg ATS proposal, that's an attack on DeFi, I think we'll quickly see a challenge to that. The token by token cases, like Wahi and like Ripple, are just going to be long slogs, and they're going to continue to bring them. I just hope that more people are willing to fight, and I will see what happens with Coinbase. The rumors of the SEC circling around, but Coinbase is also big and strong and has some sand in them. So maybe they won't make a full-on run at Coinbase. Hopefully they won't. I don't know that in the short term, it's just more pain.
And ladies and gentlemen, part of what I believe that pain is going to mean is the reining in of stablecoins. I think USDC had the worst happen to it that could possibly happen. No fault of their own. Completely because of Silicon Valley Bank. However, Tether is the $80 billion dinosaur in the room. And here this article talks about how Russians are using Tether to send money to the West, evading sanctions and KYC. And if this is a narrative that continues to build out, then you better believe that Tether is going to be on regulator sites. They already should be. In my opinion, they've always been a racket. In addition, guys, something that I do want to discuss is the very real possibility that inflation is going to run rampant again, and that Fed Chair Jerome Powell, with the rising of interest rates while these bailouts are happening, is going to break the system completely and utterly. The United States may be in a situation where the US dollar gets demoted from being the world reserve currency, and hyperinflation turns the US into the Weimar Republic.
We're in this mess because the Fed didn't do their job over the last 3 years. I mean, when you think about, we added $7 trillion to our debt in 3 years. This is the Weimar Republic, and if the United States isn't careful, they're going to find themselves in the Weimar Republic.
At what point does this become not a problem but a crisis for the United States?
When people don't want to buy our debt, when we're faced with the prospect of losing the U.S. dollar as a currency, as an international currency. And if we lose the U.S. dollar as a reserve currency, we're looking at 20 to 25% reduction in our standard of living. If that was included in the definition of the U.S. debt, maybe you'd get some attention. But the reality is that the Biden administration and Powell have gotten away with not doing anything other than continuing to inflate the bubble. And I think it's very, very dangerous.
Now, guys, for those of you that don't know, I have always believed that inflation in the United States was going to get to the point where the US dollar would no longer be allowed to be the world reserve currency because the US dollar would bring down the rest of the planet. At the exact same time, I also believed that Ripple's XRP will play an increasingly pivotal role in stabilizing the global financial system. Here, Mr. Man XRP states, I could be wrong, but it seems, smells, and feels like the Bank of International Settlements, the central bank of central banks, is confirming RippleNet to me. They've invested in a private entity. Ladies and gentlemen, I've always believed that the BIS, all the central banks, and all the big banks in the world would eventually use XRP. And here, you guys tell me in the comments below whether or not you think this is RippleNet to you, because it certainly sounds like it.
The payment system. So that's just one example. And the idea that we insist that licensed financial institutions are the only ones who provide financial services. So these are some of the ways we've done it. When it comes to KYC, AML, CFT, we have taken our requirements and also tried to tear them up in a way that allows very small transactions on the back of mobile money to be done with very little KYC requirements. But then we restrict the transaction sizes, we restrict the limits. We have limits on transaction size, on daily limits, and we keep track on these transactions. So we've tried to marry some of these objectives. The other thing we've done is ourselves as a central bank to invest in infrastructure, in public goods, in addition to regulation. We've invested in, for example, an interoperable framework and infrastructure in the payments system through a wholly owned subsidiary. All the telcos, all of the mobile money operators, all of the fintechs, except those who are too small to connect directly to it, and all the banks are connected to this interoperable framework. Now that allows seamless transfer of money across the system, across all networks, across from banks to mobile money and vice versa, and it's seamless, it's cost effective, it is quick, and all of that. That is also a concentration risk in one system that takes care of the entire ecosystem, but it's a wholly owned subsidiary that we have every confidence in the way in which it's run, in the way in which it's managed, and we subject it to full regulation as well on an arm's length basis. And so here are some of the very practical ways in which I believe we have tried to marry, the trade-offs, and to take positions along that trade-off curve.
Now, ladies and gentlemen, the entire point of me playing that clip is for all of you to understand that it's not just about the United States. The internationalization of this payment system, this financial system, is happening in real time. The BIS is the central bank of central banks, governs all these central banks, and then all these bigger banks like the Credit Suisse and all these smaller regional banks like Silicon Valley Bank will have the contagion effect specifically on the US dollar. We're seeing $2 trillion ready to be injected to help bail out all these banks. And it's because the systemic contagion that would occur if no intervention would take place would be catastrophic. Ladies and gentlemen, we've witnessed a black swan style event of epic proportions. And it's no accident. It's happening now. The world is changing in real time. And King Solomon the other day posted this document in his video. The International Monetary Fund, also known as the IMF, released a document regarding a global settlement system, specifically a global settlement marketplace for tokenized assets with 3 potential options for the platforms: XRP, XLM, and DeFi. This is how massive things are getting, and I'm gonna play you a brief clip from his video.
This paper interprets different payment arrangements in terms of the implied trust structures, discusses how the tokenization of money alters trust links and allows for a potentially more efficient market structure to exchange money. The paper ends with a suggested global marketplace to trade tokenized money directly across borders. They give three suggestions. One essentially is XRP and the XRPL. The other one would be Stellar, XLM, and the other is potentially integrating DeFi aspects, which you'll see here in a second. First, let me read this because I know a lot of this kind of verbiage might be boring, but it's talking about three models arising for this kind of global marketplace. The first model would be a private settlement asset and marketplace, such as Ripple's XRP. Or the second model would be an open source marketplace, such as the Stellar Foundations. Now, we do know, obviously, that the XRPL is open source, but I'm not going to argue with this. I'm just going to present what's in here. So the first model, a private settlement asset and marketplace, such as XRP, the XRPL. The second would be an open source marketplace, such as the Stellar Foundations. And more recently, the third model would be DeFi networks and a marketplace and settlement asset based on unbacked crypto assets, such as Strike, which leverages Bitcoin and the Lightning Network. However, a public solution, potentially run by a regulated private entity, has key advantages such as tackling the coordination problem around centralizing participation and liquidity provision, offering clear and trusted governance and operational stability, providing full compatibility with financial integrity standards. So they are giving somewhat caveats within this, but they're talking about three of the models, one definitively being XRP, the second definitively being XLM, and the third being DeFi.
Now, guys, I don't know about you, but whenever King Solomon finds a powerful document like that, it brings me chills. Here we have Jeremy Hogan, XRP community attorney, stating look for Ripple to file the Voyager judge's bankruptcy decision in support of its fair notice defense. It's good to see a judge put into words the problem that crypto projects face. And here, this is what the judge said. I'm also aware that Voyager operated, and Binance US currently operates in a regulatory environment that, at best, can be described as highly uncertain. There are firms that operate as crypto brokers or exchanges, and have done so for several years without being subject to clear and well-defined regulatory requirements. Regulators themselves can't even seem to agree as to whether cryptos are commodities that may be subject to regulation by the CFTC or securities subject to the SEC. This uncertainty has persisted despite the fact that crypto exchanges have been around for a number of years. And this, I think, is going to play a pivotal role in this Ripple XRP case. In addition, guys, Ripple's general counsel Stu Alderati stated government action that has the consequence of depriving legitimate businesses their right to bank accounts is a violation of constitutional due process. This is when regarding Signature Bank, where prospective buyers of Signature Bank have to agree to drop all crypto-related businesses at the bank. This is a full-out assault and war on crypto by the current administration. And what's so ironic is that the current administration is the one that was in bed with FTX, the largest Ponzi scheme in the crypto industry. The conflicts of interest are rampant. The government corruption is rancid. But that's why, now more than ever, Ripple and XRP are going to be the saving grace for the entire space. This Ripple XRP case is going to have a major decision being made by the judge very soon. And it's very likely that after this is made, after the judge comes out, there could be a settlement where Gary gets a couple things he wants. Ripple get exactly what they want. And then Gary can go on his rampage yet again. Personally speaking, I have to remind all of you all I want is for XRP to get clarity in the secondary market of not being a security, and that in itself will provide some positive price action and positive feedback in my opinion. ISO is going live in just 4 days. This migration is so important for the future of the payment system, it's not even funny. All these things happening at once, along with this banking crisis, along with the money printer going burr yet again, is no accident. And I cap off this video for today. What I believe is one of the most important things for us retail investors in this space is the relisting of XRP on exchanges. I'm going to cap off this video with Tony from Thinking Crypto interviewing Coinbase's legal counsel and them talking about what can happen and whether or not XRP is going to get relisted. All we want is the ability to trade freely. Coinbase and other crypto exchanges should take a stand and rise against the entire regulatory regime in place right now, because even though they've been compliant, they're still being come after. We're all in this together, and it's never been more evident than right now. Ladies and gentlemen, this is the Bearable Bull here. Thanks for tuning in. As always, I appreciate every single one of you. Now I'll be back tomorrow with another video.
So let's say in the scenario, the ruling from the judge is in favor of Ripple. Will Coinbase then say, make the assessment, you know what? It looks like things are moving in the direction of XRP and Ripple and so forth. Relist XRP or restart trading?
It's possible. It would all, of course, depend upon the basis for the ruling, the judge's legal reasoning, our assessment of whether or not an appeals court would affirm that decision. So a lot's going to depend on the particulars of how that court rules. I know that's not going to be terribly satisfying to some, but we do have a responsibility as a publicly listed company to tread carefully in this area and with respect to any token that's the subject of federal court litigation. But I'm very, very eager, as much as anyone else, to see how the court rules. And what I can say is, as soon as we have that ruling, we will put it into our process to see if we need to revisit our listing decision.
Why do I hold XRP? Because Ripple's the chosen one to lead the new global digital payment system, and they use XRP. In 2013, the Federal Reserve began looking for faster payments options. 2 years later, an action plan was born and a federal payments task force was created. It included one company focused on crypto, Ripple. In 2014, the World Bank and Better Than Cash Alliance, which includes the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation, Clinton Global Initiative, and the governments of 32 countries, put out a report called The Opportunities of Digitizing Payments. 1 year later, the Better Than Cash Alliance featured one crypto company on their website, Ripple. Today, Better Than Cash Alliance and all other UN initiatives are focused on a single agenda, the Sustainable Development Goals for 2030. You can see the SDGs logo on Bill Gates' lapel, world-leading companies, the Better Than Cash Alliance website, and on the UN's official exchange, Exchange. What crypto is Exchange officially utilizing for their carbon credit solution? XRP. The world will move to a new international standard for exchanging electronic messages between financial institutions by 2025 called ISO 20022. Who was the first ISO 20022 member focused on distributed ledger technology? Ripple. Who's partnered with over 300 financial institutions, including Bank of America, American Express, PNC, Santander, SBI, HSBC, Standard Chartered Bank, Bank of England, India, Singapore, Scotland, Australia, and Indonesia, the largest banks in Japan, Canada, Egypt, the Middle East, United Arab Emirates, Thailand, Morocco, Bhutan, South Korea, Brazil, and Latin America? Ripple. Who is a former employee overseeing the Federal Reserve? Ripple. A former employee overseeing the world's largest asset manager, BlackRock's digital asset division? Ripple. Leading Australia's CBDC effort? Ripple. Who hired a former Treasury of the United States? Ripple. 2 former Federal Reserve attorneys to their board? Ripple. 2 former Clinton and Obama advisors? Former Minister of Defense and Economics of Germany? Former business director at Swift? Former Swift board member? Former CFO of PayPal? Former head of the DTCC? Former chief business officer at Uber? Former VP of Amazon and former SEC chair on their legal team? Ripple. Who's a member of the Digital Pound Foundation, Digital Dollar Project, Digital Euro Association, Mojaloop, IMF's high-level advisory board on fintech, Hyperledger Blockchain Consortium, Open Payments Coalition, Faster Payments Council, Global Payments Steering Group, Cross-Border Working Group, International Association for Trusted Blockchain Applications, Crypto Climate Accord, University Blockchain Initiative, Worldwide Web Consortium, and a featured partner of the World Economic Forum with 3 members of their team directly listed on the WF website? Ripple. Now, does Ripple and XRP sound like they're going to disappear, or do they sound like they're part of a much bigger plan? You decide.